Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is, I don't know what day it is, Thursday, and I'm just continuing on with sharing what we're doing. I think that's the best way at the moment, is just to keep on filming what I'm doing and share it in little chunks, and then we will do our Sunday chats and we will just see how we go with that. Darryl is leaving for Brisbane tomorrow, so I've got to get a few things done. I'm making him another batch of those biscuits, the chocolate chip biscuits that I made, because he really likes them, and then he can share them with the other members of his course when he's down there, but still get to eat them as well. So I've already mixed up that dough. It's in the fridge chilling. I will cook that off at some point. You don't need to see me make that again, but we were really happy with them. I am going to try it with allulose this time rather than the erythritol monk fruit blend, just because of that cooling effect that the erythritol has is a little bit disconcerting with the chocolate chip cookies. It's perfectly tolerable, but there's a little bit of it there that's a bit odd. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one of the pork roasts out and get that minced up so I can make some sausage patties, and then he can take some of the low carb muffins down, or buy a fresh bag when he's down there, and he can just heat them in the microwave with a slice of cheese and the sausage patty and things like that. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to put a pot of black beans on. I haven't got any black beans on the shelf at the moment, and Sonnet really likes them. She's been nagging me, and I'm going to put some on because the kids, since I'm mincing that pork, the kids can have nachos for dinner tonight, some black beans and the pork mince and some corn and things like that. So I thought that would be easy. Now, I did buy 4 of those pork roasts this shopping trip because the plan was to make some sausages and stuff before it got too hot. As always, we go through the cooler months going, we've got to get this stuff done in the cooler months, because once it gets hot, we just can't do it. And every year it creeps up on us. So we had our last frost probably last week. Early last week. It was like a -1 or something overnight, and now it's not getting below 15 overnight, and it is 32 degrees at the moment. So we have this massive hike jump straight up, so we're going to have to try and take advantage of any cooler days we possibly can to get the stuff done that we didn't get done because we just didn't get there, and it really sucks. It is good for seedlings though. I am getting a lot of seeds started over this week as well, and with Darryl gone, the kids tend to just do a lot more free time, which kind of gives me free time, and I don't have to assist Darryl with any of the big projects because he's not here doing them. So it'll be interesting to see what we get done over the weekend. He has just gone to town to get me a couple more gas bottles and things to make sure I've got enough while he's gone, and to pick up any mail and stuff. And my strawberry runners are actually at the post office, so he's gone to grab those for me so that I can get them out in the garden. But yeah, so we're just plodding along. He got the shade back up over the roof in here, which I was very grateful for. He did that first thing this morning for me, which means that I won't have that issue over the weekend. So yeah, we're going to plod. It's going to be an interesting weekend, so I'm just going to bring you along with the stuff that I do and don't get done, and we will just see how we go. What else was I going to say? But yeah, so let me go and get a cutting board and a knife and a pork out, and at first up we will start with cutting that up. Already changing my mind slightly. I'm going to get the black beans going because I'm not sure how old these beans are, so it could take a couple of hours to get them nice and soft. Normally I can these and then it's not such an issue. Normally I'd cook off some onion and some garlic and stuff and then add it. I'm not going to today. I'm going really simple. So we want to add a bit of salt, a bit of onion, a bit of garlic, that sort of thing. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of my French onion soup mix, which has all of those things in it. It's just dried, and I'm going to put just a little dash of olive oil in there as well. And then we're just going to put a lid on this, bring it up to a boil. Once it's to a boil, I'm going to take the lid off it and just let it simmer for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. It really depends on a lot of things. There's differences in your water. We've got rainwater, so it shouldn't be too hard. The age of the beans, all sorts of things. So I'm just going to watch it and cook it. I would normally can them, which makes life a whole lot easier. Just have them ready on a shelf. The texture of them like this is probably nicer though. Just effort, but because I'm already going to be in the kitchen, really not that much effort. So I'm just going to get it on the stove, bring it up to a boil, turn it down to a simmer, and it'll take as long as it takes. All right, so beans are on. Now I think I forgot to say that I put 1 kilo in there with about 3 litres of water. I will probably need to top the water up, but that's about the max that pan was going to hold. And so I've got a pork out. I've got a fan on here to help with the flies and stuff, but I don't know if that's going to carry through to the mic. I've got it facing away from the mic, but we shall see. So pork. All I'm going to do is cut it up so that it's minceable. This is the leg pork from Costco that we really like because it's cheap and versatile. I use it for roasts, I use it for mince, I use it for lots of things. And a bit like Costco sells pork mince, but a bit like the beef trim, the whole idea is that I can use it however I want over a span of time. So this is best before the 25th. So I have plenty of time until once it's opened. You have less time, obviously, once you start doing anything with it. But while it's still vacuum sealed up and that, you've got till the 25th before you have to do anything with it. So that is better than buying mince, which only has like a 24-hour lifespan once you buy it because of the surface area, and it's not vacuum sealed, it's just in a standard bag. So that makes a difference. So all I'm going to do is cut this up. I'm going to take the rind off it and cut it into chunks so that we can mince it. I might cook off some potatoes. They can have that with the nachos and then tomorrow. So I'm going to take the rind off to cook over the potatoes, take some of the fat with it, but leave some behind for the mince as well. And just cut it into strips over the potatoes like I always do. I put the potatoes in a cardboard box, so hopefully they have not gone too green in this hot, sunny weather. And then it just has to be small enough to go through the mincer. So all I do is into chunks like that and like that. Sonnet filled a tray with the potatoes for me. Then we put the bits of rind on it, a little bit of salt and oil, and we're going to throw that in the oven, and that can cook while everything else is going on. I'm still cutting up the pork, and I will probably throw the container of pork in the freezer for half an hour before I try mincing it, because the colder it is, the better the mincer copes. So that way, throw it in the freezer, it'll just be easier on the mincer in this temperature as well. And we get a nice chunky grind that way too, which I like to do with the pork. I tend to do my beef really fine grind because of the it's beef trim, so there's lots of bits and bobs in the mince, but the pork's a softer meat, so I like to do it in sort of a chunkier grind, and then we just emulsify it a little bit for the patties or for what we're using, whatever it is that we're using for. But if we're using it as a mince, like over the nachos and things like that, it's always nice to have that chunkier sort of a texture, which you can't achieve if the meat is too hot or the mincer is too hot, because it tends to sort of mush as it goes through instead of mincing into that nice texture. So we will throw this in the freezer for half an hour. I'll get the potatoes going. The beans have come up to the boil and they're now on a simmer. And then I will come back once I've got this fan is slowly creeping up all the time. Obviously the springs need tightening or something. I will check the footage too to see how what the sound of the fan is on the audio. I might need to move my mic. Not that I'm very good at mic placement either. The amount of comments I get about how heavy I'm breathing, and I really don't believe I am. I think it's just that most of the time when I'm talking, I'm cooking, which means that I'm looking down at the bench, which means that I'm looking past the mic, and the mic is catching all my breath sounds. But anyway, so I'll bring you back. All right, I just listened back and that fan was really loud. So I've moved it down around my leg level, and we'll see. I'll listen again. This is all the breakfast sausage seasoning I have left, so I need to make some of that up. So I'm just going to collect all the stuff that I need to make that. I have a whole video on making breakfast sausage mix and breakfast sausage patties and stuff. I will try and link that in the cards, but I'm going to mix that up while the pork is still in the freezer chilling, and I've got those potatoes in the oven. All right, mincing the pork, Louvel mincer, as I always say. I love this thing, low wattage, high power, about 1 kilo a minute. These porks are all about 7 kilos, including the rind, so it'll be 6.5, 7 kilos worth of meat. So we're just gonna run it through, should take less than 10 minutes. And then I mixed up all the breakfast sausage seasoning, so we will mix that through. So we're just gonna get started. All right, I left the camera going so that I could time that. 8 minutes, it says on the camera, for that 7 kilos, plus the chatting in ahead of it. So pretty happy with that. I really do find that it's just a really efficient machine with low power draw, and I like how easy it is to clean. All this comes off. It's pretty warm, but it's not excessively hot with that amount. So yeah, highly recommend the Louvel mincers if you're in the market for one, and I have an affiliate code in the description somewhere. All right, so I probably don't need all of this to be breakfast sausage patties, though we could. I'm trying to decide whether I turn it all into breakfast sausage patties or if I put some aside to be the gyoza, or when I make the gyoza, all I do is I just mince up another whole pork roast and use some for gyoza and some for spring rolls or something along those lines. I don't know. Theoretically, there is 7 odd kilos in here. So let me just see what goes in here. All right, so that is 3 kilos. So theoretically, this is 3.5-ish. And if we do 90-gram patties, we're talking 40 odd patties. It's probably about it's probably about a good amount. I can always make more. As I said, I got 4 of these, dates are long on them. So I'm just gonna stick this in the fridge for tonight, and tomorrow we'll turn that into the gyoza. And then I'm gonna season this. Now, I reckon it's about 3.5 kilos. The seasoning, I'm just gonna wash my hands. The breakfast sausage seasoning is about 40 grams per kilo. So we're gonna do 140 grams. Let's do 120, which we do for 3 kilos. And I'll taste it and I'll add a little bit more if needed. And all I'm going to do is just massage that through, and we're going to emulsify this pork a little bit because we're turning this into the patties. So we want it emulsified a little bit anyway. So we'll just work that seasoning in. I'll fry off a little bit, and if it all tastes good, I will just make patties out of it. I was going to do some pork mince for the nachos tonight, wasn't I? Breakfast sausage seasoning's probably fine. Or I could just cook some of that 3 kilos up as... I don't think I've got any other meat defrosted at the moment. I suppose they could have vegetarian nachos with just the black beans and some corn and salsa and stuff. I'll ask them the question. So there we go. So we've got that blended so it's a bit sticky, so it'll hold together. I will fry off just a little bit of it to taste, and then I will turn it into about 90-gram patties, 75 to 90 grams I normally go. We want them nice and thin this time actually, because the sausage, the McMuffin type breakfast sandwiches were a little thick. So I'll have a think about it and I'll bring you back once I've got some fried off. Cooked up about 35, 75 gram patties, and then I cooked up about 500 grams of pork mince, which we'll use with the nachos for dinner tonight. So these will get put in the fridge. Darryl will take some with the English muffins for his trip. The kids will have some tomorrow. I'll have to make some English muffins. Maybe tomorrow morning, I'll see how I go. I need to cook off those biscuits for Darryl too, which I haven't done, but they can sit in the fridge overnight, the batter, and I'll bake them off first thing in the morning maybe. So that's done, and then the black beans are done, so we're just going to put the nachos together for dinner when everyone's ready. Alrighty, super simple nachos for dinner. We've got homemade salsa, we've got the black beans, the pork, some tin corn. I'm just going to throw all of this with, and I'm going to just give them pizza cheese instead of making them dairy-free cheese, and we will see how they go with it. Probably wolf it down because, you know, it's store-bought cheese instead of homemade stuff, even though it tastes just as good. But anyway, it doesn't have quite the same texture. Homemade nacho cheese doesn't have quite the same texture, but I think it's pretty close to tasty enough when you're on the nachos. It has quite a umami to it and pleasant flavour. So I've got the oven preheating nice and hot, and everything's pre-cooked obviously, so all we need to do basically is melt the cheese on top. I'm not going to overdo the cheese, we're just going to get a really nice thin layer on there and then throw that in the oven, and that is the kids' dinner. Hey everyone, it is Friday. Darryl left today for his few days away, and then we've got stuff to get done while he's gone, and you know, it's fun. What I didn't take into account was it's really warm today, so I've been struggling a bit. I forget every year how badly the heat really screws with my health, but it's been 32 degrees, which isn't excessively hot, except that what I hadn't checked was the forecast for rain, and we have 2 full days of rain forecast. So it's 3 o'clock at the moment. I've just got the kids getting off and going out and feeding animals and filling the generator up with fuel and stuff and helping me with all of that before it starts pouring, so we don't have to do that in the rain. But it looks like 2 full days of rain, which is always like, it's hard work being here when it's raining, and then Darryl's not going to be here either, so it'll be super fun. I baked off the cookies that I made, the extra batch of cookies that I made. So I'm learning so that you can learn. Allulose behaves extraordinarily differently in the cookies. They browned up a whole lot more, which I expected because allulose caramelizes, whereas monk fruit and erythritol doesn't. So they've got this lovely color on them, but they're soft. They're like cake. They just, let me get this to, is this not going to focus for me? I can't tell if it's focusing, can't tell on the screen. But they're like cake. They taste fine, but they're like a chocolate chip cake, not a cookie. So the kids are going to enjoy them. I might make them not eat them all because we were planning on doing an ice cream day tomorrow's, depending on the weather, and these would probably be really nice crumbled up in Ninja Creamy. So yes, allulose behaves very differently in those cookies. It cooked faster because of the caramelization of the allulose, but it also ended up very cakey. Now the recipe was exactly the same. This one stayed in the fridge overnight, which shouldn't really cause any issues. I can't see why it would, but same amount of baking powder, same amount of baking soda, same amount of everything else. The only thing different was the allulose. So there you go. So the plan for dinner tonight and some extras was to do the gyoza. So it's what I'm still going to plan to do. I don't know if you can hear that thunder, but we will see how we go, because obviously we still haven't got the roof finished. We got the poles concreted in. We got the concrete, something just fell somewhere. Cat, I think. We got the concrete. It started to rain. I need to get the washing off the line. Washing in. At least that's done. And the kids, if they have to feed the animals in the rain, then that's their fault because I gave them plenty of warning. Gyoza. Let me get all the stuff together and we'll get started. Now, I've got my pork mince. I asked Darryl to grab a cabbage. I need to get a band-aid for my finger. When he went into town. And when he came home, he said to me, they only had half cabbages. And I went, oh yeah, cool. And I assumed that meant that he bought me 2 half cabbages. But I can only seem to find 1 cabbage. 1 half a cabbage, so don't know. Anyway, all I do is I mince this up in the Thermomix nice and fine rather than chopping it. It just makes my life that little bit easier. Throw it in the Thermomix and mince it, and normally, yes, I would use at least a whole cabbage. Alright, so we've got 3 kilos of mince here that we're working with. Which I'm going to add to this, but I'm going to drain some water off first. So we want about equivalent of 6 cloves of garlic, but But you know, garlic is a little bit of a measure with your heart, and we like garlic. So the 3 dessert spoons of garlic. Now I don't have any minced ginger at the moment. I don't know why, but I don't. Ginger powder has a very different flavor profile, but it's still going to just give a spike of flavor. So just going to do a little bit of that. We're going to add a little bit more salt, and we're going to add some sesame oil, which I think I'm pretty much out of. My pouring jug is empty. I've got some ordered from one of the online Asian stores, but it hasn't turned up yet, and I'm having problems with my hands today, like massive issues with my hands. I think it's to do with the weather. So we'll just drizzle the very end of that in there, and that will just have to do. And we're going to add some soy sauce. Again, we're going to add like I want to say sort of that sort of amount, 1/4 cup maybe. This is very much a fly-based. It depends. It doesn't really matter. It's such a forgiving kind of a thing. And then we are going to add some cornstarch to it as well. So going to shortcut it today because I can. And then I'm just going to blend this, and then I'm going to grab the cornstarch. This was sort of spur of the moment because I wanted to make those breakfast patties for Darryl yesterday, and so therefore I needed to do something else with pork mince, and it wasn't very well planned because I could have got Darryl to grab a few extra things for me. But yeah, I didn't plan it fantastically well. Alright, so we've got that mixed through the seasonings. Now I'm going to grab the cornstarch, and then we're going to turn it into a little bit of a emulsion. Alright, so we've got the cornstarch in there, so now we're just going to turn it into a little bit of a emulsion, sticky pink looking mess. You see authentic recipes that generally use chopsticks, and I'm sure there's discussion about how you're supposed to like mix it in the same direction or something. I vaguely recall that, but yeah, we're doing what we're doing. I think sometimes I add some egg white too, depending on what I'm doing, but I think I'm just going to leave it at this for this particular one. I will have a quick look at my notes, but I vaguely recall adding egg whites. Alright, so got our Gyoza wrappers. And same as last time, I'll show you a few of them, but I'll show you a few like I did last time. So these are the wrappers. All we're doing is we're going to put a sort of a, it only ends up being like a teaspoonful of each, which is why this mince goes so far. And then run water, pinch, and then we pleat them. So we go pleat, pleat, pleat. I might move the camera to show you the next one. Just like that, and then it goes on the thing. So they are pretty quick when you get the process of them down pat. So now this brand, that one's got a bit of a, that one was a little bit not quite as flexible as I'd like, but so we put a scoop in the middle like that. Then we run the water and we pinch, and then we're going to pleat. So then I pinch too far, of course, because I'm trying to demonstrate, so that's always what happens. Let me get the next one. We'll make this one work. Like that. And we'll grab the next one. Water around the edges. pinch at the tip, and then you want to lift the front flap here and fold it, and you only have to do 2 on each side. I quite often do 3 just because it's a pattern that I do, so I normally do the 3 each side just because that's what I end up doing, but you only need the 4, the 2 each side, and that works, and that's all we're doing. So we're just going to line this up. I'm going to put a little bit of cornstarch on this board actually, just enough to coat the wax paper, which is already semi non-stick obviously, but just gives it a little bit more ability to stick. All right, and then we're just going to keep going, and I'm just going to power through. All right, I've got 2 full baking trays. Layer in the freezer. I'll show you them to you in a second, but this is the rest of them. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 packets with just a few left, and each packet says it has approximately 36. So what's that? 7, 3, 2, 10, 7, 40, 260 odd. So we'll cook up a whole bunch of these ones for dinner tonight, and then the rest will go in the freezer that don't get eaten. And we just do the normal way, in a bit of oil in a pan, add water, lid on so they steam on top, crunchy on bottom. That's the plan anyway. So it's 10 past 5, and it's weather's bad, so we'll probably just cook them up now and just have an early dinner. Not unusual for us. All I do, heat up like just enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan, and then I place my gyoza in nice and tight so I can get as many cooked at a time as possible. The problem with these is that by the time I've done these, generally speaking, I just couldn't bother doing anything else, and we end up eating these as a meal, which means we go through quite a lot of them because they're tasty, very Moorish, but also there's not much to each one. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sonnet helped me do these, and by the end she was very much over it, so some of them are a little less like pleated and stuff, but that's fine. Alright, once the bottoms are nice and crispy, this pan is done. We're going to add some water. It's going to spit, but that's fine. And we want to add like 3 or 4 tablespoons of water. Put a lid on, and now they'll steam. And this is what we end up with. Soft on top, crispy on the bottom, and all I do is I lay them out on a platter for the kids. And generally they have them with the homemade sweet chili sauce that I can. But there's also chili oil and salt, soy sauce, or whatever they want them with. But generally speaking, they have it with the homemade sweet chili. So all I do is pop them all out and we'll give it to them, and then that is dinner done. So it is Friday, but it rained it's Saturday. Saturday, and I'm supposed to do all the Ninja Creamy stuff today to film for you, but it rained all last night and all this morning, so my kitchen was flooded and the solar just wasn't cooperating this morning because of the lack of sunlight and that sort of thing. So, and I want to cook some custards up in the Thermomix to make for the Ninja Creamy because I'm doing a big batch, and custard based ice cream is always the best if you have the time and the inclination to do it. So I didn't get that done today. All I'm doing now, it's late, it's 4:45, and all I'm doing is throwing together dinner. I have spent the day, it's been raining, so we cleaned up inside, and I've spent the day doing all sorts of admin work, lots of designing and stuff for me, but also doing some budgeting and all sorts of things, just all the stuff that needed to be done on the computers. So we have spent the day doing that, and then I will show you the risotto that I end up making. It's a standard baked risotto, which I really need to get up on the website, and I say that all the time and never manage to do it, but we will get there. And I'm just on my phone, just quickly filling in that it's Saturday. I didn't get done what I wanted to get done. I don't have my mic on, which means the sound's going to be really bad. I might have to do a note on this, but I just wanted to show with this risotto, this is the stock. This is the quality of that gorgeous stock that I made the other day. So this risotto is going to be so rich, but absolutely delicious. Future editing me just coming in quickly to say that I have pulled all this content into my editing software, and it's long enough as it is, and the Ninja Creamy stuff is going to be fairly lengthy, so I'm going to cut it off here, and this will be the end of this particular set of days, and I'll discuss the whole trying to figure this out in the Sunday video, which I'm going to record next. So enjoy. You'll have seen the Sunday video before this one though. So have a great week, weekend, whenever I get this out. Have a good whatever that is. Bye, guys.